The sun rose slowly over the floating cities of Zytheria, painting the sky with shades of gold and violet. Crystal towers shimmered in the light, and the air hummed with the quiet energy of advanced technology. On the highest platform of the royal palace, Princess Lyra stood alone, her long hair flowing in the gentle breeze. She gazed at the city below, her heart fluttering with a mixture of curiosity and anxiety. Lyra was known throughout Zytheria as intelligent and polite, but also shy. She rarely spoke in public, and even among her own family she often preferred quiet observation. The pressures of being a princess weighed heavily on her. Today, however, something unusual was about to happen, something that would make her world much more complicated. A sleek silver ship appeared in the sky above the capital. Its design was unlike any Zytherian craft. It had a simple, practical shape, lacking the ornamental curves and glows common to their technology. The people below gasped, pointing as it descended toward the royal landing platform. "Princess Lyra," a guard called softly. "The visitor has arrived." "The council requests your presence," Lyra swallowed nervously. She had heard rumors that the council had asked for aid from another world. She did not expect the visitor to be a human. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and most Zytherians considered them unpredictable. Lyra's hands trembled slightly as she straightened her robes and made her way to the platform. The ship landed with a soft hum. A ramp extended and a tall figure stepped out. He wore practical armor, not flashy like Zytherian ceremonial attire, and he carried no weapon on his first approach. His presence was calm but commanding. His dark eyes scanned the surroundings, and then they rested on Lyra. Lyra felt her heart skip a beat. She had never seen a human in person before. Humans were smaller than many Zytherians, but this one seemed different. Strong, confident, and strangely magnetic. She could not meet his gaze for long, her cheeks warming as she looked away. The man approached and bowed slightly. "Princess Lyra, I am Captain Elias Drake of the Terran Defense Corps," he said in a clear, calm voice. His accent was foreign but easy to understand. "I have come to assist your kingdom." Lyra managed a small nod. Her throat felt dry and she realized her hands were fidgeting with the edges of her sleeves. She had to speak, but the words seemed stuck. "A welcome, Captain." "Drake," she stammered. Elias smiled faintly, noticing her nervousness but not commenting on it. Instead, he turned toward the council chamber, where the royal advisors waited. Lyra followed, still uncertain of how to act around this human who had suddenly entered her life. Inside the chamber, the air was tense. The council had convened to discuss a new threat. A fleet of mercenary aliens had been spotted near Zytheria's outer borders. The mercenaries were ruthless, attacking planets with advanced technology and taking resources without mercy. The council had sent urgent messages seeking help from allies, and now Elias Drake had arrived. "Captain Drake," one counselor said, his voice stern, "we hope your presence here will turn the tide against these attackers. Our forces are skilled, but the enemy is unpredictable." Elias nodded. "I understand. I have fought in many battles, and I will do my best to help your people. I believe we can prepare a strong defense if we combine your technology with my strategies." Lyra listened quietly, her mind racing. The human's confidence was impressive, but it also made her nervous. She had never been close to anyone like him. She noticed the way he spoke calmly even in front of the council's demanding tone. The way he looked around, analyzing every detail. It made her feel small and uncertain, but also curious. The meeting continued, with counselors asking Elias about strategies, defense systems, and possible weaknesses of the enemy fleet. Lyra wanted to speak, to ask questions about the fleet, but every time she tried, her voice faltered. She wished she could be braver, like this human who seemed so steady in the face of danger. Finally, the meeting ended, and the council dismissed most of the attendees. Lyra lingered behind, unsure of what to do. Elias noticed her hesitation. "Princess Lyra," he said gently, "would you like to see the defensive systems of your city? I can show you some techniques that might help in the upcoming battle." Lyra blinked. His voice was kind, patient, and for some reason her nervousness worsened. I would like that," she said softly, her hands twisting in front of her. Elias led her to a platform overlooking the city's defense grid. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing energy shields, patrol drones, and orbital cannons. Lyra tried to focus on the information, but she found herself distracted by Elias's calm presence. As he explained the systems, Lyra noticed small gestures, how he moved deliberately, how he pointed to different displays with precision, how he seemed to think several steps ahead. She realized she had never seen anyone like this before. Her admiration grew, and at the same time her shyness made her heart race. "Princess," Elias said, noticing her gaze, "don't worry if it's confusing at first. You'll understand quickly. Your knowledge of your city's technology is already impressive." Lyra felt her face warm. He had noticed her, acknowledged her abilities, and yet she still felt nervous in his presence. She nodded, trying to focus on the displays, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the human warrior who had entered her life so suddenly. The peaceful moment was interrupted by a sudden alarm. The city's sensors detected a small group of mercenary scouts approaching from the outer rim. The council had not yet prepared for such an immediate threat. Lyra's first instinct was to panic, but Elias's calm voice steadied her. "Stay here," he said. "I will handle the scouts. You watch and learn. This is a chance to see how your defenses can work in action." She watched from the platform as Elias directed the city's defense drones, coordinating their movements with quick decisions. The scouts tried to attack, but the combination of Zetherian technology and Elias's strategy quickly neutralized them. When the danger passed, Lyra felt a mix of relief and awe. She realized she had never seen anyone act with such confidence and skill. For a moment she wondered what it would be like to be that fearless. "Princess Lyra," Elias said, turning toward her, "you did well to stay calm and observe. Courage comes in many forms, and sometimes simply being present and attentive is a brave act." Lyra nodded, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. She wanted to say more, to ask him questions about humans, about his battles, about how he stayed so calm, but the words refused to come. Instead, she simply smiled, her timid nature still present but tempered by a spark of admiration and curiosity. As the sun began to set over Zetheria, casting long shadows over the floating city, Lyra realized that her life had changed. The arrival of the human warrior had shaken her world, but in a way that stirred her heart and mind. She felt nervous, excited, and unsure, all at once, and she knew deep down that she would never be able to stay completely calm around him again. The morning sun bathed the floating city of Zetheria in soft golden light. Princess Lyra stood at the edge of the royal training grounds, her hands clasped tightly together. Today she was determined to observe the human warrior, Captain Elias Drake, as he trained the royal guards. Elias had insisted on demonstrating his methods before asking anyone to follow instructions. He moved with quiet confidence, giving precise directions, correcting errors gently and encouraging the soldiers when they succeeded. Lyra found herself drawn to him, though her heart raced every time he spoke near her. She fidgeted with her robes, tried to straighten her posture, and reminded herself to stay calm. But staying calm around Elias was harder than anything she had ever done. "Princess Lyra," Elias said, noticing her tense hands, "you are welcome to join if you wish. You have a sharp mind, and you may find it helpful to understand our strategies from close observation." Lyra hesitated. Training grounds were noisy and crowded. She had never taken part in exercises with anyone outside her family before, but curiosity won over shyness. I would like to watch closely," she said softly, moving forward. Elias nodded approvingly. "Very well. Stand near the perimeter. Observe the movements, the timing, and the coordination. Notice how each guard relies on the others. As the drills began, Lyra's eyes followed every move. She noticed the fluidity of Elias's motions, how he anticipated mistakes before they happened, and how he encouraged soldiers to correct themselves without harsh words. He spoke to them with respect even when they made errors. His presence seemed to calm everyone around him, including Lyra, though her heart still beat fast. A few guards stumbled during a complex exercise, and Elias moved swiftly to guide them. Lyra felt a strange admiration. Humans might be physically smaller than Zetherians, but their confidence and decisiveness were remarkable. She wondered how he could remain so composed in every situation, even when things went wrong. During a break, Lyra timidly approached him. "Captain, Drake," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "How do you stay so calm, even when mistakes happen?" Elias turned to her, his dark eyes meeting hers. He smiled faintly. "It takes practice, Princess Lyra. You train your mind as much as your body. You learn to trust yourself, to trust others, and to focus on what you can control." Lyra nodded, absorbing his words. She felt warmth in her chest at his attention, yet her shyness made her look away quickly. I think I could try," she said softly. "Good," Elias replied. "Trying is the first step toward courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it." The lesson continued, and Lyra watched how Elias incorporated strategy with training. He encouraged soldiers to think independently while remaining coordinated. She noticed how his commands were clear but never harsh, how he rewarded effort as much as results. It was different from Zetherian training, which often focused on precision and etiquette above all else. Over the next few days, Lyra observed him closely. She began to see small human habits she found fascinating. The way he tapped his fingers when thinking, the way he adjusted his stance before giving orders, and the occasional faint smile when a soldier succeeded. She tried to imitate these habits in secret, straightening her posture, practicing calm breathing, and observing the guards' movements with more focus. One afternoon, Lyra was called to assist Elias in planning a mock defense scenario. The exercise involved coordinating drone patrols, shield activation, and ground troop movements. Lyra felt nervous. She had never been given such responsibility, but Elias stood beside her, quietly guiding her hand as she activated controls and issued instructions. "You are doing well," he said, nodding. "Notice how the drones move in response to your commands. Your decisions affect the entire operation." Lyra's chest swelled with pride, though her heart still raced. She realized that courage was not just about fighting. It was about thinking clearly, taking initiative, and learning from mistakes. She had always admired warriors, but now she understood that intelligence and quick thinking were just as important as strength. Humor sometimes eased the tension. One day, Lyra tried to mimic a human gesture she had seen Elias make, a simple stretch of his shoulders. She misjudged it, bumping into a console and causing a minor alarm to sound. The guards froze, but Elias quickly moved to deactivate it, his expression calm, his smile gentle. "Princess Lyra," he said, trying not to laugh. "Humans sometimes make mistakes too. The important thing is to learn and move on." Lyra's cheeks flushed bright red. I'm sorry," she stammered. "I did not mean to." Elias held up a hand. "No harm done. In fact, this was a perfect chance to practice handling unexpected events calmly." Her heart raced even faster. She realized she liked that Elias treated mistakes as lessons, not failures. She wanted to learn more, not just about defense, but about the human himself. How he remained composed, how he inspired loyalty, how he smiled quietly at small successes. Rumors began circulating in the palace. Some courtiers whispered that humans could not be trusted, that inviting one into the city might cause problems. Lyra felt a conflict she had not expected. Respect for her kingdom and loyalty to her people versus fascination and admiration for Elias. She did not voice these feelings. Instead, she quietly continued her observations, trying to understand both the human and her own reactions. One evening, as the sun dipped below the floating horizon, Lyra found herself alone with Elias in the observation deck. The city glowed beneath them, lights twinkling like stars. "Princess Lyra," Elias said softly, "you have been very attentive during training. Your understanding of your city's defenses is impressive. You notice details others might overlook." Lyra's ears warmed at the compliment. She wanted to speak, to ask him questions about his human world, about battles he had fought, about how he stayed so calm. But she hesitated. Words seemed to falter in her mouth. Elias, sensing her struggle, smiled gently. "It is okay to be nervous," he said. "Even the bravest people feel it. Courage grows over time and you are learning quickly." Lyra nodded, grateful for his understanding. I want to learn," she said quietly. "You already are," he replied. "Learning does not only happen on the training field. It happens whenever you notice, reflect, and try again." As the days passed, Lyra's admiration for Elias grew, and so did her own confidence. She began to understand small human behaviors, trying to mimic their calm focus and patience. She even started suggesting ideas during exercises, carefully at first, then with more assurance. Still, every time Elias spoke to her directly, her heart raced. She noticed the way he observed the city with steady eyes, how he listened with genuine interest, how he smiled in a quiet, reassuring way. She could not explain why she felt drawn to him, only that being near him made her nervous, excited, and inspired all at once. The first hints of change in Lyra were subtle. She stood taller during drills. She spoke more clearly when giving suggestions. She no longer retreated immediately when her voice faltered. But inside, her feelings for the human warrior were growing stronger, and she did not yet know how to manage them. One evening, as the two watched the city from the observation deck, a sudden alarm flashed across the holographic display. Sensors detected a small fleet of hostile scouts approaching from the outer rim. The council had not expected an attack so soon. Elias immediately focused, giving precise instructions to deploy defensive drones and coordinate patrols. Lyra felt fear at the urgency, but she also felt a strange thrill. She moved to assist him, relaying signals and activating shields under his guidance. The sun had barely risen over Zitharia when the alarm bells rang throughout the floating city. Princess Lyra sat up in her chambers, her heart jumping into her throat. She had grown more confident in the past days, observing Captain Elias Drake and learning from him. But this was different. This was real. "Princess Lyra," a guard called at her door. "The council requests your immediate presence. The enemy fleet is approaching the outer rim." "This is not a drill." Lyra swallowed hard. She hurried to the council chamber, her robes brushing against the polished floor. Elias was already there, standing near the holographic display of the city's defenses. His calm presence was almost unsettling to her now. Her heart raced as usual, but she noticed the steadiness in him that she wished she could have. "Princess," Elias said quietly, noticing her tension. "Stay calm. Observe the situation and follow instructions. You can help more than you think." Lyra nodded, grateful for his reassurance. She moved closer to the defense console, where holographic displays showed the approaching fleet of mercenary aliens. Small, fast-moving ships darted across the sensors, testing the city's outer defenses. Their numbers were larger than expected, and they were clearly skilled in strategy and evasion. Elias moved among the guards, issuing precise orders. "Deploy patrol drones on grid 4 and 6. Keep the shields active at full capacity. Intercept any scout ships before they reach the city perimeter." Lyra watched carefully, trying to absorb every detail. Then a sudden thought struck her. She could assist. Using the training Elias had given her, she quickly relayed instructions to the drone operators, guiding their positions and alerting them to gaps in the shields. "Princess Lyra," Elias said, glancing at her. "Well done. Your timing is perfect. Keep observing and adjust commands as necessary." Lyra felt a thrill of pride. She had never participated in anything like this before. Her hands moved more confidently over the console, sending commands, adjusting shields, and coordinating drone patrols. Even as the enemy ships fired energy blasts that lit the sky, she remained focused, though her heart beat rapidly with fear and excitement. The battle intensified as larger mercenary ships appeared, aiming for Zitharia's key energy nodes. The city's defenses alone would not hold. Elias quickly adapted the strategy, combining his human tactical approach with Zitharian technology. "Focus on disruption patterns," he instructed. "Divide their attention, force them to waste energy, and then strike where they are weakest." Lyra followed his directions, issuing orders for the drones to split into calculated formations. She felt the nervousness rise in her chest, but she pushed it down, concentrating on the calculations, the positions, and the timing. She realized something important. Fear could be useful if it kept her alert. During a sudden surge from enemy ships, one drone was nearly destroyed. Lyra acted quickly, redirecting another drone to intercept and block the incoming attack. It worked perfectly, and the enemy ship was forced to retreat. "Excellent decision, Princess," Elias said quietly, a rare smile on his face. "You are learning quickly." Lyra's cheeks warmed and she looked down. She could feel her admiration for him growing, mixed with the usual nervousness. His praise mattered more than she expected. The battle reached its peak when a small strike team of mercenary pilots attempted to bypass the city's outer defenses and attack the palace itself. Lyra froze for a moment, imagining the danger to her family and the city. But then Elias's calm voice cut through her fear. "Princess, focus. You can help. Use the control panel. Guide the interceptors." Lyra took a deep breath and acted. She coordinated the palace defense drones, sending the interceptors to block the mercenary ships. Her instructions were precise, her decisions quick, and the enemy pilots were forced to retreat. She felt a rush of exhilaration and pride. This was her first real act of courage in a battle. After the attack, the city returned to quiet. The scouts had been repelled, the enemy fleet retreated, and Cytheria had survived its first test. Guards and counselors were exhausted but relieved. Elias walked over to Lyra, his expression calm but approving. "You did very well, Princess Lyra," he said. "Your decisions saved part of the city. You have courage beyond what I expected." Lyra felt a strange mixture of relief and joy. Her hands were still shaking, but this time it was not just fear. It was excitement, pride, and admiration. "Thank you, Captain Drake," she stammered, looking at him. Elias smiled faintly. "Do not thank me. You acted with intelligence and bravery. That is your own merit." As the council gathered to debrief, rumors began spreading among the attendants. Some whispered that the human warrior had been too involved, that relying on him was dangerous. Lyra, however, saw it differently. She had watched him, learned from him, and even participated in the defense. She trusted his judgment, and in a way she felt a bond forming, though she did not fully understand it. Later that evening, Lyra wandered alone through the palace gardens, trying to calm her racing thoughts. The battle had been frightening, but it had also changed her. She realized she could act with courage if she focused on the task, if she trusted herself. "Princess Lyra," a familiar voice said from behind her. She turned to see Elias walking toward her, his expression calm in the soft garden light. "May I join you?" Lyra nodded, feeling her heart flutter. "Yes, please." They walked together in silence for a few moments, the soft glow of alien flora illuminating the path. Lyra noticed small details she had not before. The way Elias observed his surroundings, the subtle way he adjusted his stride, the quiet strength he carried without appearing forceful. "I wanted to congratulate you," he said finally. "You acted with intelligence and bravery today. Many would have frozen in fear." "You did not." Lyra felt her cheeks grow warm. I only did what you instructed," she said softly. "And yet you executed it perfectly." "That shows your courage," Elias replied. For a moment, Lyra found herself wishing she could speak freely, tell him how much she admired him, how his presence made her nervous, how she felt her heart race whenever he was near, but words failed her. Instead, she simply nodded, feeling the warmth of his acknowledgement. The two of them continued walking, observing the quiet city below. The battle had ended, but the threat was not gone. The mercenary fleet would return, and the palace needed to be ready. Lyra felt a new sense of determination. She would not remain timid. She would learn, act, and grow stronger, not only for her people but for herself. That night, Lyra could not sleep. She replayed the battle in her mind, analyzing every move, every decision she had made. She realized she had grown braver, and that her admiration for Elias had deepened into something more profound. She did not yet understand it, but she knew her heart would not remain calm in his presence for much longer. By morning, Lyra's resolve was firm. She would continue to train, continue to observe, and continue to learn from Elias. She would not allow fear to control her, and perhaps in the process she would discover more about the human warrior who had unexpectedly entered her life and her thoughts. The first test was over, but the real challenge was only beginning. Lyra knew she had much to learn, and that the morning mist hung low over Cytheria, giving the floating city a soft silver glow. Princess Lyra walked quietly through the palace corridors, her mind restless. The recent battle had left her exhilarated but also uneasy. The mercenary fleet had retreated, but their intentions were unknown. Something in the council's briefing had caught her attention, a hint that a spy might be inside the palace watching their every move. Lyra found Elias in the training hall, quietly reviewing defense data. His calm expression contrasted sharply with the tension that filled the palace. "Captain Drake," Lyra said softly, approaching him. I overheard the council. They suspect there may be a spy. What should we do?" Elias looked up, his dark eyes meeting hers. "You are correct, Princess. Intelligence indicates someone within the palace may be working with the mercenaries. We need to be careful, but we must act strategically, not impulsively." Lyra felt a shiver of nervous excitement. This was different from the drills and minor attacks she had seen before. This required intelligence, stealth, and courage. She realized that she wanted to help, to be involved, not just as a princess, but as someone capable. "Will you help me?" she asked quietly. Elias nodded. "If you stay close, observe carefully, and follow instructions, you can help. But remember, discretion is critical." They began moving through the palace in pairs, examining corridors, monitoring access points, and observing servants and officials. Elias taught Lyra subtle ways to detect suspicious behavior, watching for hesitation, noticing repeated patterns, and reading small gestures that might indicate deception. At first, Lyra felt nervous. She worried that she would make mistakes or reveal their presence. But Elias's calm guidance reassured her. "Focus on what you can control," he said. "Your attention to detail is already excellent. Trust yourself." As they investigated, they discovered small anomalies, doors slightly ajar when they should be locked, messages that seemed out of place, and subtle changes in security protocols. Each discovery made Lyra more alert and cautious, and at the same time, more impressed by Elias's skill. He noticed everything, yet he never seemed rushed or worried. During a quiet moment, they found themselves in the palace library, surrounded by ancient books and data crystals. Lyra hesitated, her hands brushing against a crystal display. Elias noticed her distraction. "You are thinking," he said gently. "Good, use that thought. Analyze, reflect, then act." Lyra swallowed, realizing how much she admired his patience and guidance. I want to help," she whispered. "Not just watch, I want to contribute." "You already are," Elias said. "Observing, analyzing, and acting when necessary. That is contribution. Courage comes in many forms, Princess." They continued their search, and during one late afternoon, they nearly walked into an ambush set by the suspected spy. A hidden alarm triggered, and a security drone was nearly sabotaged. Lyra acted quickly, following Elias's instructions to override the system and prevent the intrusion. The danger passed almost as quickly as it had appeared, leaving both of them slightly breathless. "You acted well under pressure," Elias said, his voice calm but filled with approval. "Your instincts are developing. This is exactly what I hoped you would learn." Lyra's heart pounded, not just from the danger but from being so close to him, hearing his praise, and knowing she had played a role in protecting the palace. Her admiration for Elias grew stronger, and at the same time, she became painfully aware of her own nervousness around him. Later, as they rested in a quiet corner of the palace garden, Lyra found the courage to speak more openly. "Captain Drake," she said softly, I have never been this close to someone like you before. I do not understand why I feel nervous around you, but I do." Elias looked at her, his expression gentle but attentive. "It is natural to feel nervous around someone you respect or admire. Courage does not mean absence of emotion, it means acting despite it." Lyra's cheeks warmed. She had wanted to confess her feelings, to tell him that her admiration went beyond respect. But she only nodded, her voice stuck. They spent hours together, moving through the palace, analyzing patterns, and discussing strategies. During this time, Lyra began to open up more, telling Elias about her life in the palace, the pressures of being a princess, and her desire to be more than timid. Elias, in return, shared stories of his human world. Simple things, memories of training, battles he had fought, and lessons he had learned. Through these stories, Lyra began to understand him better. She admired not just his strength and skill, but his patience, his wisdom, and his humility. She realized that humans, though smaller than many Zetherians, could inspire courage and respect in ways she had never imagined. By nightfall, they had pieced together enough evidence to confront the suspected spy. They discovered that a trusted official had been communicating secretly with the mercenaries, passing information about the city's defenses. The revelation shocked the council when it was brought forward, but Elias's strategy ensured the spy was captured without causing panic. Lyra felt a surge of pride. She had played a role in uncovering the traitor. She had acted courageously under pressure, followed instructions, and contributed to the safety of her people. Her timid nature was still part of her, but she realized it could coexist with bravery. As the palace returned to normal, Lyra and Elias walked once more through the garden. The soft glow of bioluminescent plants lit their path, and the air was calm. Lyra noticed the quiet confidence in Elias's stride, the steady rhythm of his breathing, and the gentle way he seemed to notice everything around him. "Princess Lyra," Elias said quietly, "today you proved that courage is not the absence of fear. It is understanding your strengths, using them wisely, and acting when it matters most. You did that?" Lyra felt her cheeks flush at his words. I only followed your guidance," she whispered. "And yet you executed it perfectly," he said. "That shows your own merit. You are braver than you realize." For a long moment they walked in silence, each aware of the other's presence. Lyra felt a strange mix of nervousness and admiration that she could not fully explain. She wanted to tell him everything, but the words seemed to catch in her throat. She contented herself with being near him, absorbing his calm strength and learning from him with every step. That night, Lyra could not sleep. She replayed the day in her mind, the tension of the near ambush, the discovery of the spy, and the quiet moments with Elias. She realized she had grown more confident, more aware of her abilities, and more attuned to courage. But she also realized something else. Her feelings for Elias had deepened. She admired him, respected him, and felt a nervous excitement whenever he was near. Lyra's thoughts wandered to the future. The mercenary fleet was still a threat, and the palace needed to remain vigilant. But she felt ready to face what came next, not as a timid princess, but as someone who had begun to understand her own courage. And she knew deep in her heart that the human warrior who had entered her life would remain an important part of her journey, both as a teacher and as someone who inspired feelings she could not yet name. As the stars rose above Cytheria, Lyra stood at her window looking out over the city. The night was calm, but she knew the challenges ahead would test her in ways she could not yet imagine. She felt fear, excitement, and admiration all at once, and she realized that this was only the beginning. With Elias by her side, guiding, teaching, and inspiring, she knew she could grow stronger, both as a princess and as a person. And though her heart still raced whenever he was near, she understood that such feelings were part of her courage. Being brave did not mean being without fear. It meant facing that fear, learning from it, and finding strength in unexpected places. The spy was caught. The palace was secure, but the bond between Lyra and Elias, built through shared danger, trust, and subtle understanding, had become something new, something powerful, and something that neither of them could ignore. The morning sky over Cytheria was filled with soft pink and orange hues, but the beauty of the sunrise could not mask the tension in the air. Sensors had detected the return of the mercenary fleet, far larger and more organized than before. Princess Lyra stood on the observation platform, her hands clenched at her sides. The lessons she had learned from Captain Elias Drake over the past days had strengthened her, but the enormity of the challenge ahead made her heart race. Elias approached, his dark eyes calm and focused as ever. "Princess Lyra," he said, "today we'll test everything we have prepared. Trust in your knowledge, your instincts, and your courage. You are ready." Lyra nodded, swallowing hard. She had trained, observed, and acted in small skirmishes before, but this was the real battle, the one that could decide the safety of her city and her people. And yet, despite her nervousness, she felt a spark of confidence. Elias's calm presence had shown her that fear was not weakness. It could be a guide if she stayed focused. The enemy fleet appeared on the sensors, dark shapes against the bright glow of Cytheria's atmosphere. Hundreds of ships moving with precision and purpose aimed directly at the city. The Council's forces were ready, but they would need more than their usual defenses to hold the line. "Deploy drones on grids 3, 4, and 7, Elias instructed. Activate all shield generators to maximum capacity. Princess Lyra, I want you coordinating the drone movements and shield adjustments. Focus on timing. One wrong move and we risk everything. Lyra's fingers hovered over the console. She felt fear rising in her chest, but she also felt determination. She took a deep breath and began issuing commands, redirecting drones to intercept enemy ships, adjusting shields to block incoming attacks, and analyzing gaps in the enemy's formation. Her heart pounded, but she followed Elias's instructions, her mind sharp and focused. The mercenary fleet pressed forward, launching a wave of smaller strike teams toward the city's outer defenses. Lyra's nerves flared, but she remembered Elias's words. Courage was acting despite fear. She coordinated the interceptors, guiding them with precise timing and quick decisions. Several enemy ships were destroyed or forced to retreat, but more kept coming. At the same time, Elias led a strike team into the heart of the enemy formation, coordinating attacks from a distance while maintaining oversight of the city's defense. Lyra watched him in awe, noticing the calmness in his eyes, the efficiency of his actions, and the quiet authority he commanded. Even amidst chaos, he remained steady, a beacon of composure that inspired her to act with courage. Suddenly, a group of mercenary ships bypassed the outer defenses and headed straight for the palace. Lyra froze for a split second, imagining the danger to her family and the city's leaders. Then she remembered her training, and Elias's calm voice echoed in her mind. Focus on what you can control. She acted quickly, directing drones to intercept the intruders, activating shields in precise timing, and sending coordinated signals to the palace defenders. Her actions were smooth, precise, and effective. The intruders were forced to retreat, and the palace remained unharmed. Elias glanced at her, a rare smile on his face. Princess Lyra, your decisions just saved lives. Excellent work. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest, pride and exhilaration mingling with lingering nervousness. She realized she had faced her first true test and passed. Her timid nature had not disappeared, but she had learned to act despite it. Courage, she now understood, came in many forms, and hers had been proven today. The battle continued, waves of enemy ships attacking the city from multiple directions. Lyra coordinated with Elias seamlessly, issuing orders, adjusting shields, and analyzing the enemy's patterns. She had become more confident in her instincts, her voice clearer as she commanded the drones, and her mind sharper with each decision. At one point, a larger mercenary ship broke through the outer defenses, aiming directly for the city's main energy hub. Lyra felt panic rise in her chest, but she refused to let it control her. She calculated the optimal drone formations, activated defensive shields, and coordinated a counterattack. The enemy ship was disabled before it could cause damage, thanks in large part to Lyra's quick thinking. Elias approached her once more, his expression calm but filled with approval. You have grown remarkably, Princess. Today you acted not just with courage, but with intelligence and precision. Your people would be proud. Lyra felt her cheeks warm. I could not have done it without your guidance, Captain Drake, she said softly. Elias shook his head gently. I guided, yes, but you acted. The courage, focus, and intelligence were all yours. Remember that. As the sun began to set, the remaining enemy forces retreated. Cytheria had survived the attack, its city glowing under the twilight sky, safe once more. The council praised both Elias and Lyra for their efforts, acknowledging her role in coordinating the defense and making critical decisions. Later, as the city settled into quiet, Lyra found herself walking alongside Elias once more. The events of the day weighed heavily on her mind, but she also felt a sense of accomplishment and growth. She had faced fear, acted decisively, and earned respect, not only from the council and the soldiers, but from Elias himself. Princess Lyra, Elias said quietly, you have proven something important today. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite it, and you did that beautifully. Lyra smiled softly, her heart still racing. I think I understand that now. I am still nervous around you, though. Elias chuckled lightly, a warm sound that made her cheeks flush. It is natural. Courage does not require removing all nerves. It simply requires acting in spite of them. They paused at the edge of the observation platform, watching the city below. The floating lights of Cytheria twinkled like stars, and the soft breeze carried a sense of calm after the storm. Lyra realized something profound. She had grown braver, more capable, and more confident. And she had discovered that the human warrior she admired and felt nervous around was someone she could rely on. For the first time, she felt a quiet certainty in her feelings. Her heart still raced in his presence, but she also felt respect, trust, and admiration that ran deeper than mere nervousness. She realized she had been inspired not only by his skills and calmness, but by his belief in her abilities. Elias, noticing her thoughtful expression, turned to her. "You have changed, Princess. Today you acted with wisdom, courage, and calm. Your people can see it, and I see it as well." Lyra nodded, her cheeks still warm. I could not have done it without you." He smiled faintly. "You could? You just needed guidance. The bravery was always within you." For a long moment they stood in silence, observing the city and reflecting on the events that had passed. The mercenary threat had been repelled, but the bond between them had grown stronger, built on trust, shared danger, and mutual respect. Lyra realized that she would never feel the same timid uncertainty around Elias again. She could feel the strength she had gained, and the admiration she felt for him had deepened into something quietly powerful. As the stars rose above Zytheria, Lyra and Elias walked back to the palace together. The city was peaceful now, but she knew the challenges ahead would continue to test them. Still, she felt ready. She had faced fear, acted decisively, and learned the meaning of courage. And she had discovered a new truth about herself. She could be brave, intelligent, and even nervous around someone she admired, all at the same time. At the edge of the palace gardens, Lyra paused and looked up at Elias. "Captain Drake," she said softly, "thank you for everything. For teaching me, guiding me, for believing I could help." Elias looked at her, his dark eyes warm. "Princess Lyra, you taught yourself. I only showed you the way. You have the courage, intelligence, and heart of a true leader. Never forget that." Lyra felt her chest swell with pride, and a quiet joy filled her heart. She had grown stronger, braver, and more confident. She had faced the first great threat to her city, and she had proven that even a timid princess could rise to the occasion. As the night settled over Zytheria, the princess and the human warrior walked side by side, silent but connected by